A new world order is in the making. European Union and India are on the same page, ushering in a new era of mutual trust and trade synergy. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen is in India. She was received by Minister of State for Commerce and Industry, Jitin Prasada. The visit is symbolic and it extends well beyond trade. Von der Leyen, along with European Council President Antonio Costa, will serve as the chief guests at India's 77th Republic Day. This visit will be followed by the India-EU summit and the formalization of a trade agreement. Speaking at Davos's World Economic Forum, von der Leyen said European Union is at the cusp of a historic trade agreement with India. Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal described the agreement as the mother of all deals. EU described India as indispensable to Europe's economy.
The European Union, covering 700 million citizens across 2 regional blocs over the Atlantic, and why we're making serious progress towards finalising a further fantastic trade agreement with India, which would cover 2 billion citizens. So I think we can see very clearly that the value of responsible, mature leadership on the global stage is paying off in terms of the EU trade agenda, in terms of our efforts to diversify our trade partners and give ourselves the maximum economic potential from our partnerships around the globe.
Delhi is accelerating strategic and trade ties with the rest of the world as the impasse over Washington's 50% tariffs on India spills over into the new year. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar met ambassadors from EU member states and stressed the importance of cooperation in order to de-risk the world economy. India is the world's 4th largest and fastest growing major economy and on track to cross $4 trillion mark in GDP, overtaking Japan this year. Negotiations between India and the EU were relaunched in 2022 after a 9-year pause, gaining traction last year amid rising trade tensions. In August, President Donald Trump doubled tariffs on Indian imports to as much as 50%. They are among the highest in the world. Joining us live from New Delhi is retired Captain Alok Bansal. He is the Director of India Foundation, Executive Director of South Asian Institute for Strategic Affairs. Captain Bansal, it's good to see you. Thank you very much for your time and welcome to the broadcast. A pause of 9 years and now a restart between India and European Union. Ursula von der Leyen says there's still a lot of work to be done, but what are the positives, according to you, in this trade deal?
See, I think India is looking to crack this trade deal. The important factor is geopolitically, both EU and India at this point of time want this trade agreement to go through. And India's policy has always been to go for progressive deals. That is to resolve those issues which are easily resolvable in the beginning and then slowly deal with those issues which are a little where there are differences. We need to understand that EU has been the largest trading bloc for India, and till GSP plus preferences were not removed, a huge amount of India's garments and other goods used to go to EU. So if this free trade agreement comes about, it will allow Indian exporters, which are facing the brunt of Trump tariffs, to diversify their exports to EU. And EU is as big a market, and that will allow India also to deal with United States on a firm footing. Otherwise, India will be under immense pressure if we cannot crack this trade agreement. So to my mind, this trade agreement is immensely important for India. Similarly for EU, which is actually facing Trump's new threats day by day. Someday 10% on Greenland, someday some other statement. EU would also be in a position to deal with the US and Trump administration on an even keel. So this trade agreement is immensely important for both the countries. India is the fastest growing large economy, fourth largest economy of the world. So for EU also it gives a very, very positive signal. And that's why we have seen that both EU as well as Indian government have a lot of hopes from this FTA, because this is going to be undoubtedly the mother of all FTAs as far as India is concerned.
Captain Bansal, talking about the mother of all deals, if this FTA becomes successful, what do you think will mean to the hawkish Washington stance? And I'm actually saying hawkish Trump's stance. Will it change anything?
See, firstly, I agree with you. It's not Washington's stance, it is Trump's stance, which is extremely hawkish, but it will give both EU and India greater space to negotiate with him. And I think Trump knows, if you look at Trump's policies, he has been taking 2 steps forward, 1 step backward. But if he's faced with a tough opposition, he invariably backs down. You saw it, what happened with China. When he imposed tariffs on China and China actually retaliated, he had to clamp down on those tariffs. So if India and EU sign this FTA, then Indian exporters would have an avenue, and I think India would not be so helpless as it seems in the face of huge exports that are going to be affected in case this FTA doesn't come up. And also we need to understand that then the pressure would be on the United States, because there are midterm elections this year. You will have House of Representatives going for elections. 1/3 of Senate seats would be changed this year, and that would put immense pressure on President Trump. So I personally feel if this FTA comes about, you'll see that US becoming more reasonable, and that would also allow India to also negotiate with China, Russia, and maybe then we could open a new line and bring the countries on one forum and resolve many of the issues which have been pending for some time, because all these countries have some grudges against one another, and those could be resolved. But in the absence of this trade agreement, I think both India and EU will be under immense pressure from Trump.
Captain Alok Bansal, it's good to see you. Let's see what comes out of the EU-India summit, which is scheduled for this coming week. But for now, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you for talking to us today.